Have you ever wondered what you would do if you were stranded in the middle of nowhere with no signs of help around? Imagine this. A regular flight, numbered 571, takes off. But instead of reaching its destination, it vanishes into thin air, leaving behind a chilling mystery. The passengers, ordinary folks like you and me, now find themselves in an unthinkable situation, stranded in a desolate place. What if the only way to survive was unthinkable? October 13, 1972, a plane carrying 45 passengers vanished over the Andes. The aircraft, a Fairchild FH-227, was filled with members of a Uruguayan rugby team, their friends, family, and associates. The group was en route to Chile for a match, but little did they know that they were embarking on a journey that would test the very limits of their endurance and humanity. The flight was routine, the sky clear, the passengers filled with anticipation. But as they soared over the majestic peaks of the Andes, disaster struck. The plane, caught in a turbulent wind, crashed into a snow-covered mountain. The impact was devastating, tearing the plane apart and scattering debris across the frozen landscape. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, shock and confusion swept through the survivors. Amid the wreckage and the biting cold, they found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival. The mountain's harsh environment offered little in terms of food or shelter, and the survivors were ill-prepared for such harsh conditions. The survivors rallied together, using the remnants of the plane as shelter against the biting cold and the relentless wind. They rationed what little food they had, knowing that their survival depended on it. But even as they fought to stay alive, they were faced with the grim reality of their situation. They were lost in one of the world's most inhospitable regions, with little hope of rescue. The survivors were not only battling the elements, but also their own fears and the creeping despair. Each passing day brought new challenges, new hardships. They were forced to make tough decisions that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. As the days turned into weeks, the initial shock gave way to a grim acceptance. The survivors realized that they were in a race against time, battling not only the harsh conditions but also their dwindling supplies and fading hope. As the days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. But the will to survive, to return to their loved ones, kept them going, kept them fighting against the odds. The survivors realized that to stay alive, they had to make a terrible decision. As the icy winds of the Andes howled around them, the survivors of the crash were faced with an unimaginable reality. Stranded in the middle of nowhere, they had to contend with sub-zero temperatures, snow-covered mountains, and a dwindling supply of resources. Each day was a battle against the elements. The biting cold sapped their strength, the thin air made every breath a struggle, and the lack of food left them weak and malnourished. They were trapped in a white wilderness, their hopes of rescue fading with each passing day. To survive, they had to adapt. They used the wreckage of the plane to shield themselves from the elements. They melted snow for drinking water, but as the days turned into weeks, their food supplies ran out. They were left with a choice that no one should ever have to make. In the face of death, they chose life. They made a decision that would forever mark them, a decision born out of desperation and the instinct to survive. They turned to the only source of sustenance they had left, the bodies of their deceased companions. It was a decision that would haunt them for the rest of their lives, but it was a decision that kept them alive. The fight for survival had just begun. After 72 grueling days, the world finally discovered what had happened to Flight 571. The chilling silence was broken as the veil lifted to reveal an unbelievable tale of survival. The word was out. There were survivors. What followed was a cocktail of shock, disbelief, and relief that swept across the globe. The survivors, a handful of the original passengers, were found alive, albeit physically and emotionally scarred. The world watched in stunned silence as they emerged, their faces etched with the harsh realities of their ordeal. The news was met with mixed reactions: awe at their survival, horror at their circumstances, and controversy over the lengths they had to go to survive. The aftermath was a whirlwind for the survivors. They were thrust into a media frenzy, their stories scrutinized, their actions debated. But amidst the chaos, one fact remained clear. In the face of unimaginable circumstances, the human will to survive had prevailed.